It was a dark and stormy night, the kind of night that always seemed to bring back memories I'd rather forget. The rain pounded against the windows of my small apartment as I made myself a drink. The rain felt like a relentless drumbeat that matched the pounding in my head. I took a long sip of the bourbon in my hand, hoping it would drown out the memories, but it only seemed to make them louder. I used to be a detective, a damn good one. Most people called me Detective Alphonse. I helped solve crimes, protected the townsfolk, and even earned quite a prestigious reputation in the police department. But that was a lifetime ago, before the nightmares and the guilt drove me to retire early and seek solace at the bottom of a bottle. Alcohol had become my only companion, the only thing that could dull the pain of the past. As I sat there in the dimly lit room, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I glanced out the window and saw nothing but the rain-slicked streets of the city. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes for a second. In the dark, I felt a sense of unease. I had always been a cautious man, and my instincts told me that something was not right. I poured myself another drink and tried to ignore the feeling, but it grew stronger with each passing moment. It felt like a nagging voice in the back of my mind that refused to be silenced. I finally gave in and got up from my chair, stumbling slightly as I made my way to the window. The rain was coming down in torrents, obscuring my view of the outside world. But then, for just a brief moment, I saw something beneath the lamp at the corner of the streets. At first, I felt like a figure, a shadowy silhouette standing across the street. It wasn't much, but it was partially hidden behind a tree. My heart raced as I realized that I was not alone. A peeping neighbor, perhaps, or someone with more sinister intentions. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, the result of too much liquor and too little sleep. But deep down, I knew that something was wrong. The feeling of being watched lingered like a ghostly presence in the room. I decided to investigate further, slipping into my coat and grabbing a flashlight. I needed to know who had been watching me and why. As I stepped out into the rain-soaked street, I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding, like I was walking into a trap. I followed the path the figure had taken. My flashlight illuminated the path that lay before me. The rain had turned the streets into a slippery mess, and the wind howled through the empty alleyways, creating an eerie atmosphere that sent shivers down my spine. I turned a corner and found myself in a narrow alley, the walls of old brick buildings towering above me. And then I saw her. She was dressed in a tattered white gown that clung to her frail form. Her long black hair hung in wet strands down her back, and her pale skin was almost translucent in the dim light. She seemed to be staring at something or someone that I couldn't see. "Hey!" I called out to her. The woman didn't respond. She didn't even acknowledge my presence. It was as if she was in a trance. "Are you okay?" I asked, reaching out to touch her shoulder. But before my hand could make contact, she turned and looked at me with empty, lifeless eyes. I stumbled back in horror. The woman's face was twisted in agony, and her mouth opened to emit a blood-curdling scream that seemed to come from the depths of hell itself. The Lord has mercy. I covered my ears in a desperate attempt to block out the sound, but it echoed in my head. That's when I noticed something else. As it turns out, the light from my flashlight pierced through her, going in and out as if she were not of this world. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the scream stopped. The woman collapsed to the ground, her body contorted in unnatural ways. I watched in horror as she slowly faded away, like a mist evaporating in the morning sun. I stood there in the alley. I had no rational explanation for this. Nothing. It was as if I had stumbled into a nightmare, a waking hell that refused to let me go. The rain continued to fall, washing away any trace of the woman as if she had never existed. I stumbled back to my apartment, my mind reeling from the encounter. I knew I needed to find answers to uncover the truth behind the haunting spirit I had encountered. But I also knew that the answers might lead me down a dark and treacherous path, one that I might not survive. As I sat in my apartment, nursing another drink, I couldn't help but wonder if the spirit I had encountered was a manifestation of my own guilt and trauma. The memories of the cases in which I had worked and the lives I had failed to save haunted me every day. and now, it seemed, they had come back to haunt me in a very real and terrifying way. I knew I couldn't run from my past any longer. I had to confront it, to face the demons that lurked in the shadows of my mind. But as I stared at the bottom of my glass, I couldn't help but wonder if I would ever find the answers I sought, or if I would be consumed by the darkness that had taken hold of my life.